Welcome to MLB Hot Topic. I'm Amber Wilson. This is where we talk about the top headlines around the bigs, and we welcome in senior MLB writer Scott Miller to the program. And Scott, you spent this week with the Milwaukee Brewers trying to answer one of baseball's biggest questions. Scott, are the Brewers for real? Are they here to stay?
From here, Amber, that answer is a big yes. I think there's no question the Brewers are for real, even though recently they went through a stretch in which they lost 7 out of 10 ball games. Their schedule's gotten tougher. Everybody knew it would. But I think the Brewers are for real for several reasons. They're a great story with their young talent. Prince Fielder, J.J. Hardy, Ricky Weeks, guys like that, Corey Hart are really good young players. In fact, this week Prince Fielder and J.J. Hardy were tied for the National League lead in home runs. That's historic in Milwaukee. The last time you looked up and a Brewer was tied for the league lead in home runs or led the league, you have to go back to 1982, back in the Gorman-Thomas days when Gorman tied Reggie Jackson, then of the California Angels, in 1982 for the home run lead. And Gorman-Thomas, Ben Ogilvy, guys like that. That's who Prince Fielder and J.J. Hardy are reminding people of. I think they're real for that. I think as far as the schedule's concerned, they were 24-10, best record in baseball, and then they ran into the Mets, the Phillies, some teams like that. They weren't going to continue to play at a 24-10 pace. They got knocked for having an easy schedule to start with, but here's the thing. In October, the teams that get there, how do they get there? For one thing, they beat up on the teams on their schedule they're supposed to beat up on. Well, that's what Milwaukee spent April doing in the first part of May. So they're winning games they're supposed to win. They're talented. And one other thing about the Brewers, through this week, they had only used 26 players, the fewest in the major leagues, and they had only used 5 starting pitchers, which tied Pittsburgh and Tampa Bay for the fewest starting pitchers used. What's important about that? It tells you that the Brewers are staying healthy. For decades, the Brewers couldn't do that. Guys like Teddy Higuera and Ben McDonald were landing on the disabled list every other week, it seemed like. It seemed to be a star-crossed franchise. So far this year, and I spoke with manager Ned Yost up in Dodger Stadium the other day, and he knocked on wood as he's talked, but so far the Brewers are healthy, and that also plays into why I think they're for real.
All right, Scott, and staying in the NL Central, the Cubs are looking a little better now that Alfonso Soriano is hitting. But this is a team that still looks like it's putting things together on the fly. This is a team that moves Soriano from center back to left. Now they're talking about putting closer Ryan Dempster into the rotation. Scott, what's Lou Piniella thinking?
Well, I think what's going on with Lou Piniella and with the Cubs, Amber, I think a couple of things. One, I think truth be told, I don't know that he would admit it, but I think this spring Piniella overestimated the Cubs a little bit. I think what he saw in the spring, he thought they were a little better than they actually are. And I think the second thing going on with the Cubs, they had so many new pieces. Piniella, Alfonso Soriano, Mark DeRosa, Ted Lilly, Jason Marquis, that I think even 2 months into the season, this is still a team that is finding itself. They're not quite sure who they are. And we know that from a couple of things. One, Alfonso Soriano, they spent the spring making him into a center fielder. They go through April. He doesn't hit a home run for the whole month, and they pull the plug and move him right back over to left field to make him more comfortable. They were worried he wasn't comfortable in center field, and it was affecting his play at the plate. The other thing is, aside from that, most recently, this past weekend, they took Ryan Dempster and they talked to him about moving from being a closer into the starting rotation. So what happened then was a fiasco, even by Cubs standards. Dempster thought it was a go. He told a couple reporters. Meanwhile, Piniella was changing his mind and thought, uh-oh, we need to leave Dempster as closer for now. So the beans were spilled, and then Piniella called Dempster back into his office and said, no, we're going to leave you as a closer. So now everybody in Chicago is talking about, is Dempster going to close? Is he going to start? And the problem you have there is every time a Cubs starter hits a couple of starts where he struggles, people are going to go to Dempster and they're going to say, hey, are you moving? Is this the time you're going to move into the rotation? And conversely, when Dempster struggles in the 9th inning, and it's bound to happen, everybody struggles in this game, what's going to happen, if he has 2 or 3 rough 9th innings, people are going to go to Lou Piniella and the Cubs and say, hey, is this the time you're going to look at moving him into the rotation? So, you know, the cat got out of the bag on what the Cubs were thinking about doing, and it could turn into a season-long issue if the rotation doesn't find some consistency and if Dempster doesn't find consistency. So we'll see what happens from there.
All right, and the latest buzz is that Roger Clemens may step up his program and join the Yankees by May 28th. Is this too soon, Scott? Is this a sign of how desperate the Yankees are right now?
I think that with Roger Clemens moving into the Yankee rotation possibly by the end of May, I think there's no question that he's pushing it as fast as he can push it and that the Yankees are pushing it as fast as they can push it. I think there's some danger here because Clemens has a history of hamstring and groin injuries, and he's not any younger. And what's clear is the Yankees needed him yesterday. They need him, and they need any other starting pitcher that's healthy and effective that they can find. They think Clemens is going to come into New York and save the day. And, you know, he's done it before, so give the guy credit. Who knows? Maybe Roger Clemens is going to come in and be the savior of the 2007 Yankees season. That said, still, age has to catch up with a guy eventually, even if he is a Hall of Famer like Roger Clemens. I think that the Yankees are pushing the issue. Clemens is pushing the issue. And I just hope if he does rejoin the rotation May 28th rather than waiting until he takes another minor league start or two, I hope he doesn't go out there and have to come off the mound like Phil Hughes did or pull a hamstring like Mike Mussina or Chien-Ming Wang. That wouldn't be good for anybody. So stay tuned, but the Yankees, no question, have reached a desperation stage, falling behind the Boston Red Sox by double digits.
All right, thanks as always, Scott. We'll see you next week for another MLB Hot Topic. Thanks for watching. I'm Amber Wilson.